I'm going to be reading into something deeply troubling, as some of you guys may know about this. So, 3 MPs investigating the phone hacking were hacked during their investigation, known as an organised attack on the democratic process. We're going to read into this interesting article / more of an analysis story from Byline Times, guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article or analysis of sorts from Byline Times with the headline that 3 MPs investigating the phone hacking hacked during their investigation, known as an organised attack on the democratic process. Former Labour MP Paul Farrelly explains the circumstances surrounding a new legal investigation into whether members of Parliament's Digital, Culture, Media and Sports, that's the DCMS, looked into phone hacking and press criminality was systematically hacked by the Murdoch empire. So as you guys know, Rupert Murdoch has a huge strain on the mainstream media here in the United Kingdom. He also has influence in Australia and other nations, of course, as well as in America, rightfully or wrongfully so. And this is about how much influence and damage that he really does have on the process. So rather than me giving thoughts about this, I think we'll just dive straight into it and read about it, guys, to give us a better understanding of this. So 10 years ago, Rupert Murdoch was ready himself for the immediate breakup of his life work, as reverberations from the phone hacking scandal shook his global empire to the core. The upheaval would see the now 92-year-old Australian tycoon lose control in time of the Hollywood's 21st Century Fox and satellite broadcaster Sky to US rivals, as investors demanded his blighted British newspaper be put firmly at arm's length and in their place. Meanwhile, back then, Rebekah and Andy Coulson, the former editors of the defraud news of the world, were huddled with lawyers ahead of their criminal trial on conspiracy charges, and hundreds of thousands of people had just signed a petition demanding immediate implementation of press reforms advocated by judicial inquiries into hacking, headed by Sir Brian Leveson the previous autumn. Today, Coulson has long since served his 18 months in prison. Brooke, who was cleared, is back at the helm of the Murdoch News UK, overseeing the Sun, the Times and the Sunday Times. And the Leveson agenda promised Part 2 of his inquiry into relationships between journalists and the police has been buried by backtracking Conservative government. However, the saga is far from over. I have just joined 170 others in the latest fourth wave of claims in the High Court. That takes the total to well over 1,500 so far. And there will be many more to come before the judges and lawyers wrap up their work, most likely in 2 or 3 years' time. The new batch includes cricketers Phil Mottle and Michael Fallon, film director Guy Ritchie, singer Jarvis Cocker and Tom, and Brigadier Andrew Parker Bowles, son and ex-husband of the country's soon-to-be Queen, amid a clutch of celebrities, friends and family, and the likes of Doreen Lawrence and Jerry McCann, who have suffered unbearable family tragic ever in the public eye. Among the politicians on this list, I am not alone. Former cabinet ministers features plus 7 MPs, a Metro mayor, and 2 retired colleagues, Tom Watson and Adrian Saunders, from the Parliament's Digital Media, Culture, Sports, the DCMS committee, on which we were investigating hacking from the outset 15 years ago. The legality, of course, is spread far beyond the news of the world, with Murdoch shut down in July 2011 after revelations about the shameless hacking of a murdered teenager Millie Dowell's phone. Some of the new claims cite the Sun only, which has already settled case, as has the Mirror after a flurry of claims over the past few years. Just last month, Associated newspaper, owner of the high and mighty Daily Mail, tried to get a groundbreaking case brought by Baroness Lawrence, Prince Harry, Elton John and others thrown out as a fishing expedition. For good measure, the Mail denied claims on bugging, breaking and entering, blagging of medical records, payments to police, and illegal use of data from private eye, an issue over which Byline investigates has led the fray. To date, though, it is Murdoch who has brought the brunt. Since its first claim in 2008, the affair has cost the News Corporation more than $1 billion in payouts plus legal fees, and the bills keep rising by the day. It was the dodgy pursuit of the Guardian's Nick Davis back in 2009 which exposed the first secret settlement, then the Millie Dowler outrage, opening the floodgates to a wave of litigation since. On the DCMS committee, we started devaluing in 2007. After the jailing of the News of the World royal editor Clive Goodman and arch blagger Glenn McKean, my interest was plain. I used to be a journalist and thought these people had brought shame on my profession. The first inquiry in 2007, self-regulation of the press, calls for a shake-up of the toothless old Press Complaints Commission, the PCC. This was when the newspaper claimed it was sticking up to its one rogue reporter line, in which PCCs and police swallowed whole. Our second report in 2010, Press Standards, Privacy and Liberal, demolishes that preposterous defence and marked the beginning of the end for the PCC too. The News of the World's reaction was comically ferocious. Your right to know is marred in MPs' biases, but a free press is far too precious to lose. Below the editorial singling out Tom Watson and myself as lefties toddling to the Guardian's agenda. A year later, they certainly changed their tune. Thank you and goodbye ran the front page on July the 10th, 2011. After 168 years of publication, the final edition went to press. By then, we had started our third inquiry, News International and phone hacking, looking at a catalogue of cover-ups and decency. During that, when Rupert Murdoch appeared before us that July with Brooks and his sons James, it was the first time, quite remarkably, that he'd been called to a public account since first landing on these shores to buy the Sun in 1969. I'd moved the motion to summon them to a private committee session the week before. They had been evasive until then, but I knew they were now in the country to apologise to Millie Dowler's parents. So off to Rapping went the men from Westminster Serjeant at Arms, minus tie and swords, armed with the warrants and their Oyster cards, and that sessions was not just memorable for the protesters attacking Murdoch with a shaving foam pie, or his then wife Wendy Dale's impressive martial arts developed in his defence, or for what Murdoch himself declared the most humble day of my life. It furthered the case for hacking victims too. This man and his family and empire cannot be trusted in any way, shape or form. History shows that once a snake, always a snake, no matter how much its skin has changed. You know, there is a saying about giving people a belief of second chances, which I do believe in, but this man has caused so much damage in the world with the power of misinformation. So much. And he does not care whatsoever about the consequences of those actions. All for power, no matter what it costs. This is an extremely dangerous person, to say the least. And even when he does go, it doesn't change the fact that there are people in his family who have the same ethics, same drive that he has to cause harm. That's not going to change, sadly. Cutting through James Ivy Lee's ascending monologue, for example, I asked Murdoch Sr. why. As they apologised to the Downers, they were still paying Glenn Mockle's legal bills. He agreed crockily to the point that it was wrong and it would stop. Q. McClelly suing for the breach of contract, more disclosures and turning against their hands that felt him. That involved this instrumental help, it should have been said, of the late Max Mosley, who had successfully sued the News of the World over sensational stories of Nazi-themed orgies. Lost one of its sons to suicide in the aftermath and was key in making the full called claims possible by underwriting the enormous legal costs of taking on the Murdoch empire. This latest set includes 3 of the 11th members of the DCMS committees, which found key witnesses and News International itself in contempt of Parliament in 2012. But why only now? Well, throughout all of this, however fair that they may have been, I never imagined that I would have been so stupid as to hack the phones of MPs investigating them for the very same. But as a writer in another case last summer, I first had strong grounds to suspect that I had been targeted when I joined the committee, quite possibly after the closure of the News of the World and the start of Leveson too. So now we are going through a lengthy legal process to establish whether this extended systematically to other members of the DCMS committee. If that did happen, that is more than just going after individual MPs, celebrities, or the public at large for a tittle-tattle about their private lives. This is an organised attack on the democratic process. And yet another strong argument for more robust, independent regulation to try and ensure, with a free but responsible press, that such a scandal never happens again. So this was Paul Farrelly, who was the Labour MP for Newcastle under Lyme from 2001 to 2019, and is a former journalist with Reuters, The Independent on Sunday, and The Observer. He was a member of the Parliament's Digital, Culture, Media and Sports Committee from 2005 to 2009 during his inquiries into the phone hacking and disinformation and fake news. So this is pretty much more about his story. He's on the damage that Murdoch Empire and those who had influenced it too. Fascinating to say the least, guys. Of course, I will put the link in there so you can have a read of it yourself. But what do I make of it all? Scary, concerned, worried that they're watching us. You know, we need more powerful regulation on the media landscape as a whole. It's not fair. It's not a fair system, and it feels very biased towards either left or right, and it's not a very level playing field. And I feel that Byline Times is a very level playing field when it comes to its media and journalism work. You know, I've been following them for a few years now, and as you guys know, I do cover a lot of articles from them because I find their information to be incredibly reliable, because they don't rely on like billionaires or whatever to fund what they do. It's all raised through subscriptions and people who generally want to support a independent media outlet for them, for the interest of its people, to report accurate and precise information. Now, to be clear, that all stories and articles that I cover, you know, I don't cover stories from the Telegraph or from the Express, the Daily Mail, or even Financial Times as of right now. And the reason is some of them are requiring behind a paywall. I would consider looking at the Telegraph, even though it is quite right wing, but they do have certain stories that can be of interest to you guys. However, there's a paywall behind that, so I can't really invest in that. Same with the Financial Times. That's something that I would like to cover. But again, how accurate is the information that you get from these is a question you need to ask yourself. Like I've always said, whatever source of information or media or story that you hear, because if you're hearing it from one rather than hearing it from the majority, chances are it may be real, but it also may not be real. Now, I use The Guardian a lot because they do have a lot of articles and a lot of stories they bring, it is free, and it's very helpful to me to get my knowledge out, to my knowledge of what's going on in the world, and to pass it on to you guys, which is also why I also use several other outlets like Al Jazeera, as well as another one, but most of their stories unfortunately is covering the Israel and Gaza. But there's lots of different media outlets. But here's the key take, whenever you read an article yourself, or that I read it for you, take everything with a pinch of salt. Nothing is absolutely true unless you see it and hear it with your own eyes, and not just through a phone or behind a computer screen, guys. So what do you make of this? What do you make of this, of Paul Farrelly's story here about what has happened and the control of the media, the MPs potentially being manipulated by the media, and could it be a lot more than that? How deep has the mainstream media, the Murdochs, gotten their claws into politicians? how much more regulation do we need, guys? Let me know what you guys think of this all down in the comments section below. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on it all. Like, share and subscribe as always. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon. Oh, and subscribe to Byline Times. Support their work for what they do.